In a future that grows ever closer, the fate of our Earth will lie in the hands of one man, a solitary warrior of great courage. His name
Welcome, and here I am with my newly promoted co-host, as we don't have Stupendo this evening, the Inside Man. It's gone up in the ranks.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad. I had a good day of writing today. I basically got up, started writing, briefly stopped to eat a cheeseburger, and finished writing about half an hour ago. So
nice. No mustard on your pages then.
No, but there was mustard on the cheeseburger. Along with about 7 other ingredients.
And of course, as we know, you're writing his mustard, mate.
Thank you, man. I missed out that cunning. If only my AI had been switched on, I no doubt I would have picked up on that. I'm sure my AI device is dying to say hello to you again, Inside Man, but I'll refrain.
Oh bless her.
We've got a couple of our usual guests and an extra new guest, which means we've got 2 Lukes on the channel today. That won't get confusing, though, because I just call one of them Bastard and the other one Fletchy, and it'll work out. But before we bring them in, look at Alicia's in house!
Just got back from the theater, so
I'm drinking tonight. What did you see at the theater?
The new Channing Tatum film.
Oh, the one where he's the serial killer in the stadium or whatever.
It's great. It's got no marketing. Like I just heard about it a couple of days ago. It's been out for a week.
We'll talk about it because I'm keen to hear your thoughts on it. We did show the trailer for it actually on an episode of the Nielsen Ratings. I came across it. Thought the trailer was kind of interesting. It's a Michael M. Shyamalan film, isn't it?
No, it's directed by Zoe Kravitz.
But he wrote the script.
He did. Oh, it didn't say written by him. Well, let me check.
I think he. Oh, hang on a minute. Well, no. We're talking at cross purposes. You're talking about the movie that Zoe Kravitz directed, where all the rich people go to the kind of cool holiday home. Yeah. Sorry, I'm getting them mixed up.
Twice.
I think I'm getting my actors mixed up as well.
You're thinking of Josh Hartnett from Trap.
I always get Channing Tatum and Josh Hartnett mixed up. They're two like so buff, good looking, action man types. So easy. Talking of buff action man, Northern English Bastards in the house. And that's his actual photo, in case people are wondering what he looks like.
Yeah, because Oasis have reunited, and I'm probably never going to be able to afford those bloody tickets, but still.
I just don't give 0 fucks about that. I couldn't afford to go and see them before, and I'm certainly not going to be able to afford to go and see them now.
Well, it's just a cash grab. It's a
I'm sorry.
Cash grab tour, isn't it? It's a quick cash grab tour. That's all it is.
It is a quick cash grab tour. Also on his cash grab tour, his Fleshless Film is here. Head of the Society of Fizz Gig. First time on the channel. Good to see you, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome.
You're very welcome. Why Fleshless Films? Tell us more.
I don't know. It's just a name at the time. I don't know. Something fun.
Mate, do you want me to take you out, and do you want to do a second take of that and come up with more story?
No, there is no like deeper meaning behind it or anything. It was just
name.
Just a cool title at the time. Yeah.
Okay. Well, better than Fleshlight
like
films.
it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Fantastic. All right. Well, welcome to the Nielsen ratings, where we discuss all things that we've seen, recent and past, film and television shows, sometimes theatre shows, sometimes music events. So I'll expect a full report on the Oasis debacle, but we'll come back to that later.
I think they're going to have an argument before the.
Probably. And then
Yeah, come on, these. They're both two very talented guys with big egos. Those
Indeed.
egos clash.
Indeed. Well, I'm going to kick off tonight's proceedings with an oldie, which I put on today because I sort of realised I hadn't watched it since I was at my parents' house, and that's going back quite a way. Not like in its entirety. I'd caught bits of it when it'd been on telly here and there, but I hadn't sat down and watched it properly for a long time. And I thought, well, let's have a look at this, because it wasn't a favourite when I was a kid because there wasn't enough shooting. But I had On the Bridge on the River Kwai, which of course won 7 Oscars, including for Best Picture. Probably one of the best performances of Alec Guinness's career. A true story in the terms of it's a very, very fictional telling of a bridge that British prisoners were forced to build by the Japanese. And that description is where the fact and fiction separates itself. In this fictional version of the telling, a new batch of prisoners arrive, commanded by Alec Guinness's character, a very stoic individual who refuses to let the officers do manual work because it's in the Geneva Convention, and thus a game of wits begins between him and the Japanese commander. Also in the picture is American star of the time, William Holden. Some of you may be more familiar with William Holden's performance in the amazing film The Towering Inferno, where he plays the father of the son who kind of fucks up all the things, Richard Chamberlain, with the building. And he's the one who's in charge of the party and trying to make sure all the guests get out alive. William Holden, absolutely fantastic actor. We also have the late, great Jack Hawkins in the movie. And there's a number of other interesting British character actors in the film as well, including Percy Harbert, who also starred in The Wild Geese. And actually, the thing that made me watch this was Fighting on Film, who's a great World War II podcast, not just World War II, but they cover all kind of historical films. Robbie and Matt, they did a special interview with Percy Herbert's daughter, and she was talking about his time filming Bridge on the River Kwai, and I thought, God, you know what? I haven't watched that in decades. So I thought I'd put it on and see, does it A, hold up? Was it B, worthy of the praise that it got at the time? And C, what do I think of it now? So definitely worthy of the praise that it got at the time. It does still hold up. It does have the older acting style. People's performances are a lot bigger than they are now. There's, a lot less kind of people kind of delivering, powerful moments with one word and that sort of thing, and not in this film so much. But yeah, and I do like it. I think it is a good film. It's funny because my memories of it going back to my childhood are that a far greater portion of the film actually took place in the prisoner of war camp, which is not the case. And there's a huge percentage of the film that covers William Holden's escape, and then the British effectively tricking him into going back to the camp and having to take part in the commando team that's job is to blow up the bridge. If you haven't seen it, I definitely recommend it. It's worth seeing for the performance of Alec Guinness alone, but that's not all the film's got to offer you. It's a great movie. It's got a score by the same composer who did all the St. Trinian's films and the Dunkirk movie, who apparently was supposed to be a real difficult and grumpy man, not someone who was easy to work with or get on with. But yeah,
Malcolm Sargent, was it Malcolm Sargent? Did that?
I think his name was different, but I'll double check that in a second. It's directed by David Lean, of course.
Yeah.
Inside Man, to you first, because you'll be the most familiar with this movie, I'm sure. I mean, I'd give it a solid 8.5 to 9 out of 10.
Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, It's one of my all-time favorite films. It's difficult to find any kind of fault with this. In terms of the story, what's quite strange about the story, and maybe a lot of people might not know this, but the book on which the film is based, or the adaptation.
Malcolm Arnold, by the way, is the music.
Oh, it's Malcolm Arnold, not Malcolm. Right, okay. Yeah. So the book was written by.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, the book was written by Pierre Boulle, the same author of Planet of the Apes. So
Right.
it's obviously a fictionalized version of what actually did happen. Now, my grandfather's brother, my great uncle, he was on this Burma Railway. He was he was one of the prisoners of war in the Far East that was constructing this railway. And he never recovered. I mean, he suffered from PTSD the rest of his life, and the scars mentally and physically were still there, and obviously he never spoke of it. But nonetheless, regardless of it being a slightly sort of personal interest to me, this isn't just one of the best war films ever made. This is one of the best films ever made. This is such a perfectly crafted piece of work, beautifully photographed, beautifully directed, beautifully acted. And it's very difficult to come close to this in terms of although it's grand in scale, but when you re-examine it, it's not quite so grand as you might think. But you're kind of led to believe that this is much grander in scale than it actually is. But that's due to the cinematography and the direction. But yeah, I can't fault this film. It's genuinely one of my all-time favorite movies, and I'm glad that you picked it. I'm really glad that you picked it, because you've actually prompted me to go back and watch this again. I haven't seen it for some
probably
years.
do a chew the fat on it at some point. Maybe
Yeah.
we can arrange that with History Bro, and you can come on for that. I'm sure.
Yeah.
He'd be up.
Oh my goodness me. Yeah. But in terms of what I would score it as, I mean, this is, like I say, this is one of my all-time favorite films. Out of 10, if I could score it, 11, then I would. It really is that good. And as you said, Lance, if there's anybody out there that's watching this stream right now, or anybody on the panel that hasn't seen this film, you really should.
Yeah.
You really should watch this movie. It's just wonderful.
I think that's the original UK cinema poster, this one, I believe. Which, because it's that 40 by 30 inch quad, isn't it? I think that's probably the original British. I mean, yeah, it's got one of the things I really noticed about it, as with several films from this kind of era, sort of early 60s, late 50s, is that it's got that very rich early Technicolor saturation, and but also, of course, that lovely film grain, and that look is very unique to that time, and the types of cameras and film that they were shooting with, and and obviously the kind of film that we shoot on, the kind of cameras we use, has changed substantially over time. And sure, you can replicate that look, but there's something very authentic about films that are shot in this time. The color tones and all the rest of them. That's the re-release. UK cinema quad, the one where they whacked all the awards on it and said, "Let's get a buff, semi-naked William Holden on there to increase female ticket sales."
And what was funny about bringing William Holden in was he was there because they knew they couldn't sell it to America. The American distributors wouldn't take it unless there was an American star. So they had to have a name of the day, and William Holden fit that bill. However, it was a great decision. It was a terrific decision to include William Holden.
Yeah, because it kind of created a good tension between him and Alec Guinness's character, I think, who's called Major Johnson or something like that. The whole kind of British way of the British stiff upper lip and all that. That created a really nice natural tension between them, which I really liked. But I think in the novel, his character is actually English.
Yes.
And of course, they changed the character to an American, just so as you say, it's one of those important decisions for film distribution, but it works, and it's
it does.
So 10 out of 10 from the Inside Man. Blue Collar Loser, have you seen this film?
Yeah, it's been a long time since I watched it. I have seen it, but I can't remember a lot about it because it's a film I saw as a kid.
No, I've not seen it, but it's on my watch list now.
Right, yeah. Well, I mean, if you haven't seen it,
it does have a, from what you were discussing and looking at the film, it has an air of like, am I guessing sort of like Empire of the Sun, maybe? Is it that kind of film?
It's not quite as that's a certain perspective. This is a bit more contained.
Yeah.
Okay.
In terms of the narrative is much more a smaller number of characters. There's a lot of people in the film, but there's probably only about 9 characters that have any significant dialogue.
Yeah. Would you, just out of curiosity, Lance? I mean, I'm not sure whether you'd actually agree with me, but would you say that this is largely a character study, and the situation with the bridge is maybe slightly incidental? I kind of see it as more of a character study, to be perfectly honest with you. But although the bridge is the end game, the end goal, if you like, it really is it's about the journey, the characters and their journey towards that finale, if you like.
Yeah, I mean, because one of the things that's, I mean, a lot of the characters, I don't want to spoil it for people, but some people survive, a lot of people don't, and we won't spoil it to say who does and who doesn't, but everyone goes through quite a significant arc. And I don't think any of the characters by the end of the film are the people that they started out. And I think that was a sign of a good movie.
Yeah.
And in that context, it could have been a bridge. It could have been something else, They could have been blowing up a fuel dump or whatever. I mean, the bridge is a bit of a metaphor for the morale of the men, in terms of, it's, when British prisoners get captured and you've got the prison camp, you still have, we've all seen the films The Great Escape, you still have that hierarchy. The officers are still in charge in the prison camp, and their primary job is to find something for the men to do, because if the men don't have anything to do, apart from trying to escape, they're all going to end up basically fighting and killing each other, or worse. So the British
is that
for them to
is that kind of compliance or resistance? Which is the best to be in that situation? Is it best to be compliant, or is it best to be resistant?
Yeah, and this is Bridge 277, which was over the River Kwai. It's pronounced, it's spelt Kwai, but it's I think it's actually pronounced Kwai, because it's spelt Khwae locally. So and I mean, there's still a bridge there, obviously not the one that the British built. And like I say, I don't know which bits of this film are fictional and which bits are factual. The main facts are that this is part of the Burma Railway, and literally thousands upon thousands of British soldiers died under forced labour in extremely poor conditions, and most of their families were paid about between 20 and 40,000 pounds by the Japanese Empire after the war in compensation if they died.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But
it's quite interesting. It's quite interesting to me, with this, and I think that's actually quite a fascinating point that you bring up there, actually, Lance. And that is, although it may not be absolutely historically accurate, but there is a truthfulness about this movie. We know that these things actually did happen. It doesn't matter whether the actual events happened. It doesn't matter whether the specific conversations took place. It absolutely is completely irrelevant. But it's the telling of a story of men under submission, under repression, under under slavery, really. So these were in essence slaves. So there's a truthfulness to it in terms of its reality. It's like with most historical films, they do play fast and loose with reality, really, with a kind of historical accuracy. However, the truthfulness, is definitely there. This is a true film. This has truth about it.
Yeah, the still that you've got up now, interestingly enough, I think the chap on the right, I believe, is one of the Asian Oriental actors, and all the Japanese soldiers in this film were played by I think it was Chinese
Right. Okay.
background people. Yeah, there was only only a couple of the officers and the lead Japanese commandant, who was a very good actor, who did most of his lines in broken English. Wasn't his first language. Sesei Huaka something. I'm probably pronouncing that name wrong, so I do apologize. I'm not trying to be comical about it. But he was a Japanese matinee idol, so he was a massive star in Japan, and he was actually in the early 1900s. He was the first actor of Asian descent to achieve stardom in silent movies. So
Wow.
there's quite a lot of background to the people in this film as well. William Holden got one of the best deals that an actor had ever got at this time. He got a fee of $300,000, which in those days were probably around 10 million today. There he is in the center, but he also got 10% of the box office gross of this film. Can you imagine?
Gross, wow.
10%.
Yeah,
that's a deal of Jack Nicholson Batman proportions right there.
Yeah. I mean, the only time prior to this that those kind of deals ever happened was in the silent era, and and you had people like Charlie Chaplin and Douglas Fairbanks and Mary Pickford that were earning considerably more than that. But yeah, that's a big deal for the day. I think it was just after the studio system is starting to just started to falter, isn't it? I can't remember what year this was actually, Lance.
It was 57.
57, right? 57. So yeah, it's just after that period where the studio system started to dissolve somewhat.
Northern, have you seen this movie?
I've got it on DVD, but I never get around to watch it. I need to get around to watch it.
How can you have it in your DVD collection? You haven't seen it yet.
I've got a lot of war movies that I have watched, and there's some I have not watched yet.
Well, you've got to. Yes, he is Ben Kenobi. That is Obi-Wan Kenobi on the left. And I would say that before Star Wars, this was really the role that everybody knew Alec Guinness for. Was Bridge on the River Kwai. I mean, yeah, he'd done some other things, but this was the role that, it's like a role that defines your career. Yeah. This was the role that defined his career until he did Star Wars, which he thought was going to be like a nothing nonsense film.
Although I do think he's sorry, I beg your pardon.
No, I was going to say he got points on Star Wars, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Yeah. Yes, he did. Yeah.
So I think he did all right out of that nonsense sci-fi film.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that prior to this, I think the one role that Alec Guinness played, or should I say, the 7 roles that Alec Guinness played, was in Kind Hearts and Coronets, which it's an Ealing comedy, and if you haven't seen that, it's one of the greatest British films ever made. It's just a wonderful, wonderful film. So he plays multiple roles with Dennis Price. Wonderful film.
Classic sort of Ealing comedy, one of the best.
Yeah, it's Joan Greenwood, and Joan Greenwood looks really quite hot in it, actually.
I like the way your voice changed when you said that. So.
Yeah. Ding dong.
You sounded a bit like Rick Mail when he's getting excited on the young ones.
Really quite hot.
Okay, so if you haven't seen Bridge on the River Kwai, obviously that's a strong recommendation from us both.
Amazing choice, choice, Lance. Well done.
But Blue Collar Losers itching to talk about a new film he's seen. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, Scott. I done seeing
You can't like unsee certain things.
Yeah, I got done seeing Blink twice with Channing Tatum.
Okay, so you just saw Blink twice. So that just had the UK premiere just the other night because he was on the red carpet in Leicester Square. I think it was a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
I've seen the trailer for this. I haven't seen the movie. It's the directing debut, I believe, of Zoe Kravitz.
Yeah.
And do you want to give us a basic breakdown of the story without any spoilers?
Yeah, let's see. The film starts out with this character called Frida. I forget the actress's name. I'll look it up. And she is a waitress, and also the girl from Arrested Development, who plays Maybe. She has the freckles on her face. And Channing Tatum is a tech billionaire, and he gives the whole like, well, apparently a couple years ago he was caught doing some inappropriate things, and like, I'm sorry, I need to do better. I need to take time off. I'm working on myself. I'm sorry. I'm in therapy. I'm sorry. It's just it's so obviously like what people do nowadays, the whole bullshit PR stunts they do. It's so on the nose, but I liked it. And what he does is, okay, part of my journey recovery is I bought an island because I'm a billionaire. On my island, I do things like, get into it nature, and I take away cell phones and technology and just meditate and get back to life. So these two waitresses, they meet him at a party and like, hey, you should come to my island, because what could possibly go wrong on a tech billionaire's island that has no cell phone service? And
so far, so Jeffrey Epstein. Please continue.
Yeah.
And so the first hour is just, it's good looking people drinking a lot of alcohol, doing a lot of drugs, and I'm like, I want to go there so badly. And then basically, but they notice that something just seems different. Like there's people on the island, like they're servants, and like something seems off. Like, when something's too good to be true, it probably is. And you can tell Channing Tatum's just slowly in the background, sipping on a vape pen, and just like, the first hour is the buildup of like, why is this paradise just seems so perfect? Like he's too perfect. This situation's too perfect. And then basically the second half is like seeing what's going on this island. You're like, oh my God. So it turns into a pure horror film, the second half. And that's when it gets really intriguing and interesting. I had a good time with it because everybody here knows I'm assuming the right people will say it's a female directed film. It's probably feminist propaganda. And I'm like, no, because Lance already mentioned a certain somebody named Jeffrey, and we have people from Bill Gates to like even this Mr. Beast controversy recently, and just rich people do horrible shit. It's as simple as that, guys. There's no woke propaganda, no feminist stuff. It's just a bunch of hot women go on to a tech billionaire's island. What do you think is going to happen? Not nice things. So I liked it because in Channing Tatum, I can't think last time he played a bad guy, and he definitely plays a bad guy.
How do you think? What do you think of Zoe Kravitz's direction? I mean, it's her first film, so
good. Yeah, I mean, I didn't feel the performances were it had like a lot of dark humor, and performances. This actress, I gotta look up her name now. Her name is Naomi Aki. She plays Frida, and Aaliyah Shawkat is from Arrested Development, so she plays Jess. And actually, Haley Joel Osment's in this, so wasn't Christian Slater's in it. And of course, but Channing Tatum's the main draw. But his character is called Slater King, and just said everything about him is just it's so phony. Like his genuineness and how he wants to redeem himself. And also Gina Davis is in this, and Gina Davis looked up. She's almost 70, and she's an older woman, but she looks fantastic for her age. I'm like, wow, I haven't seen Gina Davis in like I can't think of the last film I've seen Gina Davis in. And she plays Slater's mother.
Yeah, do you know what? I'm trying to think. I mean, the last film I saw her in was Cutthroat Island when I got it on Blu-ray to review it for the channel, but I can't remember what I've seen her in recently. Yeah, I mean, she's obviously older, but for her age, she looks amazing. I'm like, and it looks like natural, not like she's all plastic surgery done. Even my son's like, hey, Dad, is that Gina Davis? Because we watch, Long Kiss Goodnight, and said she's very aging gracefully. And I'm like, wow, she looks great for a woman. She's almost 70. You can tell Kravitz is a precise director because she made sure both nipples are just above the waterline in this shot for the ladies.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
and I'm already seeing some comparisons. But yeah, people mentioned, like you said, Lance, the critics out there and people reviewing the film, like, hey, it seems very like Jeffrey. I'm like, it is. That's why I'm not mad with making him change him a bad guy. I'm not mad with the premise because come on, this kind of stuff, people can lie themselves. You think that the Elon Musk's out there or the whatever the
sure.
what's his name? The guy with Facebook, Zuckerberg. These people, you think this stuff doesn't happen in real life, guys? Come on. That's what's fun about it. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. I would recommend people watching it.
Before you give us your rating, just a note for my mods. Can you keep an eye out for a guy called Duck Vader in the chat? And he's very welcome. This is not a note to hit him with the hammer and chuck him out. I've actually invited him on the channel, so I told him to shout in the chat, and it might be that I might miss it. So keep an eye out for Duck Vader. Yeah. Has anyone else seen this apart from Blue?
No, I'm afraid not.
I'm going to assume the deathly silence means no. So, Blue, therefore, you get the sole privilege of rating it out of 10, sir.
I would give it a solid 8. Honestly, I really enjoyed it. If this is Zoe's first directorial debut, hats off to her. And as I said, it's a thrill. Oh, my one main criticism, you guys, everyone in the theater is just like, even my kid, the whole like, hey, hi, this is a trigger warning. We have to like announce to the fans that this is a work of fiction.
My God, they've got a trigger warning at the beginning of it.
They put a trigger because it was about
with that
maybe about 40 people in the theater, and just everyone's that's the main thing. I'm just like, it didn't affect the movie, but the fact that
trigger warning like give anything away.
No, it just said like this is a work of fiction, and this is like some images may disturb certain people, and like
fuck it.
Friends of Jeffrey Epstein may find this. May find they get flashbacks while watching this film.
And in terms of like the gore, it's nothing. I mean, I've seen obviously it's still a thriller / horror film, but come on, this isn't Saw. I mean, I've seen way worse. Come on.
Yeah.
Well, do you know what? I've got time for Zoe Kravitz. I think she's a decent actress. It's nice to see her into directing, and I'm glad you liked it, mate. It's got a respectable 7 out of 10. So far from nearly 7,000
8. Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine with a 7 out of 10.
I have a quick look at some of the user review headlines. Extraordinary debut for Kravitz. Blink twice for the plot to go a bit faster, but still 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
Funny when you get someone reviews a film, they say underwhelming, but they give it 6. And underwhelming for me would be like a 5 at the highest. Wasted potential. Middling thriller undermined by silly humor. Would you agree the silly humor undermines?
I mean, again, that's a problem with humor. It's a lot of dark humor. Everyone in my theater was laughing. I mean,
an enjoyable, slow burning film.
Yeah.
So it is Get Out for women. Oh, okay. Familiar, but not.
I can say that. Yeah, definitely.
A horror plotline females can definitely relate to. Kravitz chilling directional debut, surprisingly good. The social commentary of it all. No apologies. Almost 5 out of 10. Woeful. I won't read that one because it's got spoilers. Big exhale after this one. Well-made directing debut. So most people seem to. I think the general consensus seems to be a decent, solid thriller and a good first directing debut effort. That's nice.
I'm just the biggest thing. I just hate the whole we have to, the fact that it's 2024, guys. It's theaters. Don't a trigger warning really. I mean, come on. It's
putting them before plays. Well, talking of trigger warnings, I mean, just for the quality of the product alone, from what I've heard on the street, there should have been one at the beginning of this film that said, "Beware, what you're about to watch is not good." So,
no, see, that should have came with trigger warning. I'd be fine with that.
I'm going to hand over to our new guest, Fleshless Films, or LJ.
Thanks, Lance.
And mate, I'll give you first dibs on this. I mean, now let's get a couple of caveats in. So, first of all, you, like me, are a fan of the original graphic novel. You read the original graphic novel, correct?
Absolutely.
So we got that in common. I thought that the Brandon Lee film was okay. Could have been better, but I thought it was fine. It wasn't an amazing film. It was okay.
There is supposed to be a
given the amount of time and like the kind of budget that he had. Obviously, they had the incident with Brandon.
Lead star dying.
They had to piece a lot of that together with CGI in the end, and I think they did an okay job.
With a face, first use of CGI body doubling.
I think there was loads in the film as well that they couldn't use because of the incident. Like other scenes, like there was supposed to be a talking like a Grim Reaper style character.
Yeah, the
as well,
Skull
isn't there?
Cowboy, which is like represented in this new film by this character Kronos, and it's just it gave
All
me a
right,
migraine
So
just trying to figure it out.
What does this? Let's talk positives first, and I'll let you dive in on the opposite of that shortly.
Yeah, it's got some nice set pieces, and you know the effects are really good, and you know Bill Skarsgård is he's a great actor, and I just kind of feel he was wasted in this. But sorry, go ahead, Lance.
What does it? No. What? It's your time to talk, but let me ask the questions. What does it have in common with the source material, in your opinion?
Nothing really.
Okay, so
it doesn't carry it doesn't carry the same message. And just harking back to what you were saying about the original film and what it did with the comic book, I feel that it kept those essential elements in the comic book that made that great, and it still carried the tragedy of that central character. And what else the OG did, the OG film and the comic book, at the start of the film, at the start of both stories, the character's already dead, and he's already out for blood. And the way he kind of pieces together his life and what happened to him is by going to certain places and regaining those memories. And this failed to ignore all of what made the Crow like magical and mysterious, and that harrowing aspect to the character that really made you feel for him and his quest for revenge. And as the film starts, when it says like sometimes something so bad happens that a terrible silence is carried with the soul and it can't rest, and sometimes it'll come back to put the wrong things right. Now in this, it's just all very by the numbers, like the whole death scene with Eric and Shelley in this version compared to the original film, which was really dark what happened to him and Shelley. And then when you look in the comic books by comparison, it's sinister what they do to the couple in there. Sorry, I'm rambling here, Lance. You want to chime in?
That's all right. Well, I mean, before I let you dived ahead, but it's fine. I was going to ask. Okay, so forget. It's got nothing. Doesn't honor the source material correctly, which is what I've heard. As a film, purely as a film, for someone watching it as a movie who's never read a Crow comic, what about the film does work or works on its own level, if you like? Anything?
Well, the pacing's off because you've got.
That's a negative comment. I'm asking for positive.
Positive.
You dive back into the negative immediately.
I think what it does well is
that's
the action sequences in it are very nice.
Okay,
you've got some beautiful visual effects in there, and the director, he's obviously really good behind the camera, and the chap, let me just grab his name, the director.
He said, "I love that poster."
He did Ghost in the Shell. This director, he was Rupert Sanders. So he knew his stuff, and they were writing it with James O'Barr. So there was the makeup there. There was the writers are good. There was the people there and everyone to make this a success, which I think they got the team right. I just can't understand why they just missed out on the story.
I think it really boils down to who really is pulling the strings. So whoever is pulling the strings, that's where the buck really stops.
I quite like that poster as well, actually. Now I've heard that the girl is predominantly a musician. I'm not familiar with her or her music, and that she's a bit of a weak spot for the film. Is that true, or is that unfair?
FKA Twigs, she's called. FKA Twigs.
I mean, just purely on her acting. What's her acting like?
She wasn't so bad. It's just that
she's okay. She's okay. She's not. She
didn't do her job badly.
No, okay.
Do her job badly at all. Everybody did their bit, but as I said, it's just.
So the main issue here is the script.
100%.
Right.
100% the problem.
Who else has seen this? Blue, I think you've seen it.
Yeah, I did all right.
No. Okay. Do you want to elaborate on the detail that's
Oh boy,
been
I
expounded?
won't do a rant. I'll say that her acting might possibly be the worst acting I've seen in 2024.
Okay,
Like,
you're being slightly less kind then. Fair enough.
Every time I talk, I have to talk like this with Eric and the crow. Every single time, it's like she's out of breath.
I was trying to be nice.
So
yeah.
probably
I
a
hate
better,
when you do that
better
fucking
singer than,
greedy talking. I really
Oh my
don't.
god, and I talk like this every time. The entire film.
At the end of the day, I mean, these guys are actors. They're just told what to do. I mean, even though she is not, the best
Someone's
out
directed
there,
her though.
they could have directed her a bit better. But the character and just the way she's inserted into it anyway is all wrong. I mean, had they just gone with the flashbacks like they had with the comic book and the original, because that's how the character was inserted and how the Eric as a character got his memories back and what happened to him. I think just her in snippets without having to watch her actually act out some of the scenes, because the story really did kind of sideline Eric Draven as a character and refocus it back round to Shelley as a central character.
Can one of you answer me? Is Eric? I think he was called Eric Draven in the comic, if I remember rightly.
Correct.
Is this him in Eric Draven mode, or is this him in Crow mode?
This is before he dies.
This is him just normal.
So he's sort of transgender emo in the film. Then.
Yeah, this is these two have. This is the first 45 minutes of the film.
They demasculinated him. They took away his masculinity, basically.
It's 2 hours, Lance.
Okay, so we've got 45 minutes of setup and an hour and 15 of mass action of him killing people.
Oh no, there's he doesn't put like on the Crow make like versus Brandon Lee was the first 15 minutes. You don't see the first Crow until like an hour and 15 into the movie, hour 20.
It's mountains of exposition.
45 minutes before he dies, half an hour before he becomes the Crow.
Yeah, because like LG was saying, once he dies, he's still in like limbo. He's still talking to this faux spirit guide, and he's
Cronus.
Yes, Cronus.
Do we then get 45 minutes of non-stop action?
Oh no, we don't. Trust me. If anybody
watches, trying to help this film here, but it's not a
well. That's why I see the Critical Drinker said this is the worst film of the year. That's a
he did. I'm just trying to I'm not going, I haven't seen it, so I can't just readily agree with that.
Yeah, I said in my review, if you want to see the action, watch the trailer. All the action's in the trailer.
Absolutely, 100% agree. Yeah, and that is it's Alien Romulus all over again. It's just like everything's in the trailer.
Yeah, that's why I didn't watch the trailer. As soon as I saw
right there, Lance, like that's honestly that
shot of facehugger, I was out. I didn't want to know if they had facehuggers in the movie.
That's basically the last 15 minutes of the film, and that's the only action sequence you really get.
That's the best bit of the film as well. The opera scene is called.
I do like
Danny Houston.
I love Danny Houston as an actor. He's so good.
Yeah, he has about 5 minutes of airtime in the entire film as the main villain.
Yeah.
Another wasted really good actor.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So, comments in the chat that basically are not too pleased with this movie. Those people.
Oh boy.
It's upsetting because all the blueprint, the makeup, just to make all they had to do was just fucking, excuse my French, just do something like the comic book. It's the only good story there is. Yeah. The only way to improve on the OG Brandon Lee one is to just make it even closer to the comic book, because
I would agree. If you're going to remake
it, story,
just make it as close as you can.
That's why I said, because the first one, Brandon Lee, they did have to make some changes, obviously with him passing away. So the faults of the first film are hindered by they had to reshoot a lot of stuff, and like Lance said, to make him the first digital face. With this, they didn't have those problems, so that's what pisses fans off that much more. Is at least you can forgive the first film because Brandon Lee did pass away before the film was done being shot. This doesn't have that. You could have made this a perfect adaptation.
I wanted to ask, because it says in Will's review that the leading female, Twigs or whatever her name is, the actress, her role, her occupation is that she's a drug addicted hooker in the story. Is that?
Yes,
absolutely.
And I haven't read the graphic novel for a long time. It's in a box in the shed somewhere. But my memory is that she's his girlfriend. Full stop. I don't recall her being a hooker.
Well, this is the thing about the essence of what they've kind of destroyed and taken away from this film, because that relationship between Eric and Shelley, it was like one of like purity.
Yeah, it was like a love thing. That was a big narrative.
They were totally in love, and like that relationship that you saw kind of blossom in those flashbacks, those moments of closeness. You know, and just little scenes from them, like being out in the countryside, and like, it was just fucking absolutely beautiful how they portrayed it in the comic book, and then they still managed to carry that effect over into the film. They've lost all of that, you know, that purity. I mean, the whole point of like Eric coming back was because that love between them was utterly destroyed in such an epic moment of violence. You know, that was the catalyst therein. You know, for him to come back as this ultimate form of revenge on a just and, worthwhile quest, if you know what I'm saying. The violence was justified. As Brandon,
because it was so brutal, wasn't it? The way he was killed and the way she was just there violating.
Oh, yeah.
You wanted him to get revenge.
Which that doesn't happen here at all. This is considering this is 2024. This is so watered down. Like I've seen CW shows with more violence.
Wow. Dude,
you don't feel for Eric in this at all. You don't.
Is it just me, or does this actor on the left look like he's channeling his inner Rutger Hauer?
That's what I was thinking, though.
Yeah, he really. When I first saw this still, I was like, "Damn, Rutger Hauer shot this movie before he died." But I mean, that credit is Danny Huston and Laura Byrne, but that's not Danny Huston on the left.
I don't mean to drop big spoilers as well, but you know, the whole addition of let's say it. You know, the demonology aspect that's been put into this compared to, you know, how Top Dollar and Mia in the first one, you know, you understood there was a bit of occult stuff going on there in the background and them trying to steal his power. Whereas in this, they've shifted it round into a very, very weird kind of way. And the whole reason for the Crow coming back because something really bad happened to someone's been taken away. And now the Crow's being made for another purpose, to help somebody else's agenda. It's like, what? Why? I don't get that choice at all.
Would it be fair to say, just as from an outside, because obviously I've not seen this, but would it be fair to say that they've actually just got the actual story, the original story or the original premise, and they have deliberately made numerous adjustments and tweaks in order to satisfy what they consider to be an audience of today?
100%.
There was an element of that was confirmed in an interview, that they had made it to be more feminist friendly. That's why they made Shelley more lead.
Yeah,
give her more of a lead character.
Yeah, because in the first film, Brandon Lee, Shelley has about maybe 10 minutes of airtime, and mostly through flashbacks, versus now the first 45 minutes is all about Shelley, and also the way she is. It's not a spoiler, her and Eric get killed. And in the first one with Brandon Lee, they take turns. These guys take turns doing stuff to her, then stabbing her, and she remember, she dies spending 30 hours in the hospital in ICU, and she suffers. That's part of like why Eric is coming back for this. Is they put a bag in her head and she's dead in like 20 seconds. It's so clean and watered down. But also, like you said, man, the biggest thing is, you know what, the Crow as a character, the Crow could be technically anybody. It could be a different person. It wouldn't help the film at all. But like, you shouldn't have called this Eric and Shelley. You could have called this Bob and Jane or something, because Eric and Shelley, their stories already been told. There have been different Crow iterations with different characters that weren't Eric Draven.
Yeah, I agree with that. You could have just completely called this something different and not put the Crow stuff in there, and people wouldn't have probably known. And that was a little bit like the Crow, because forgive me as well. I mean, did you say you've seen this all the way through, Blue Collar?
Oh yeah.
Well, the ending itself is just like makes the film pointless without me like revealing.
Yeah, I mean,
anything.
At this point,
it just makes the whole thing, like everything that's happened in this movie, it makes it all just like, well, none of it ever happened anyway.
Yeah, so this is the Crow by name. This is Eric and Shelley by name. The entire backstory, the plot, even his powers, everything. It's just called the Crow. It has nothing to do at all with the source material, except for two names. Even the characters like Ernie Hudson is in the first one. All the bad guys. This is not even in Detroit. This is over in like the UK, which makes it even worse. These two meet each other in rehab.
Oh, okay, yeah.
In a mixed
setting
prison
it in the
as
UK.
well.
doesn't work.
In a mixed prison.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I have one question left before we move on. Is it as good as this version of The Crow?
Oh God,
That's a masterpiece in comparison.
I mean, I said
Edward Furlong, The Crow, Wicked Prayer, also known as The Crow 4.
Well, like I said, even that one, Liz, I said, but at least that's not tainting Eric Draven. That's not tainting the Brandon Lee version, because the one with Bill Skarsgård, this is just a retelling of the Brandon Lee film, but just it's bastardizing the source material. At least said this is different characters than Eric, so it's like it's not a good film, but at least they're not like shitting over Brandon Lee's legacy.
It's funny. This was shot in 2005, but it's got a real kind of 1980s straight to video vibe about it.
Michael Corney has in it as well from Buffy, I believe.
Right.
You should watch the trailer. It looks really, it looks really 90s. It's it's very terrible. We was talking about this on Stupenzolicious stream, and we were just laughing our asses off at it. It looks so lame. It really did.
Yeah, it's that guy's. He's the lead role in is it that Lucifer TV show or what?
Angel.
I can't remember, but even in the new film, I don't even think he uses the Crow for anything. Whereas in the other one, it kind of served a purpose where it'd go and find everyone.
No, the Crows are just there at this point.
It looks like he's an extra in Alien Romulus in this shot. I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah, clearly, he should have been the lead role because he has got some charisma. David Boreanaz, he really does.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, those people that have seen The Crow 2024, what would you give it out of 10? This is the Nielsen ratings, after all.
I mean, I think
I'll give it a 1 just because Bill Skarsgård was in it. The one
That's
out of the
1. Blue Collar.
Yeah, I mean, I'd never get. It's hard for me to give a 0, but I mean, it's like, a 0 is I can't. Yeah. Like there's one 5-minute action sequence that's kind of cool, but again, out of a 2-hour film, just YouTube the action sequences.
Got some scores coming in. Slightly more generous offerings here. Gary Bando Sandwich, Kit Kat Worthington, 5 out of 10. Aaron Sharman, 4 out of 10.
I'll say, Lance, if it wasn't Eric and Shelley, I may have went higher, because if it was a crappy love story, but it wasn't them, I probably would have been more favorable. That's the point. Eric and Shelley, they're supposed to have this beautiful romance. I'll tell you one thing: this chick and Bill Skarsgård, I've got more chemistry with my cat than these two have with each other. Like there is no romance, nothing. It's just like, and the first 45 minutes, if you should have condensed it to maybe 15 at best. It drags. You're like I wanted them to die at some point. Like, just please kill them already. Like, goddamn.
That's what made the first film and the comics interesting, though, is seeing him put together his life bit by bit through the flashbacks and memories. They're like when he goes back to his apartment and it all just hits him all in one, and as he's going along, you really feel for him, and the just how angry he gets progressively,
and that makes it worse. Then
when he go on, lad, kick off.
And as soon as he dies, you think he'll be angry. He's even a bigger pussy after. Like, you're invincible, and he's still crying. Like, oh God! It's at least Brandon Lee. Once Brandon Lee dons the makeup, he goes full just Terminator mode. He's just slaughtering these guys. Like you don't, but you almost feel bad for the bad guys when Brandon Lee does it. Bill Skarsgård dies, comes back, and he's still like, I'm sad. Wait, what?
Dude, I mean, you're still not going to have like the amazing scene where he's up on the roof playing his guitar. That was just like such a good touch to the film.
Well, yes, okay. No one else has seen it. Northern, you haven't seen it, have you?
No, I did try to see it earlier, but the sights are down.
You did try to see it earlier, but unfortunately, you couldn't get to the cinema. Yes. Okay. Well. Oh, good. Copyright claim released on Spartacus. How kind of you, YouTube. Thank you.
it's like I mean, even Madam Web. Madam Web is comical, bad, but still fun in a stupid way, or Morbius. But this is not even that. It's
all right. Well, let's move on from the Crow. Northern, have you seen something you do want to recommend?
Yes, I want to recommend Joss Whedon's sci-fi western, very sadly cancelled before its time, Firefly. It's about a former idealistic soldier called Mal, played by Nathan Fillion, who fought for the independent side against the tyrannical alliance and lost. Years later, he is now a cynical renegade who owns a Firefly-class ship called Serenity, with his combat buddy Zoe, played by Gina Todd, who's also his second in command. It's piloted by her husband Wash, played by the criminally underrated Alan Tudyk, if I'm pronouncing his name right.
I think you are, actually. You're going to do a better job than me.
Yeah, I've got this all written down, yeah. And the crew consists of a selfish mech called Jane, played by Adam Baldwin, an engineer called Kaylee, played by Jewel States, a companion, like a prostitute called Inara, played by a very young Marina Baccarin, a shepherd or pastor named Buck, played by Ron Glass, who may not be as holy as he appears, as well as two Alliance fugitives, a surgeon called Simon Tan, played by Sean Mayher, who is trying to protect his sister River, played by Summer Glau, who was experimented on by the Alliance and maybe more than who she appears to be. Together they try to find whatever jobs they can do to make a quick buck, whether legal or not, and hope that they don't run into the Alliance, or worse, the Reavers, and that's if they can survive every other arsehole trying to rip them off. Great characters with distinct personalities, but they never feel two-dimensional. They are well written, well acted enough to come across as fully fledged characters you can cheer on. The cast has great chemistry, and Joss Whedon's sharp writing really adds layers to them, and you really can't help but be invested in every scene. You can have just scenes of them just talking bullshit, not doing anything, just talking about mundane things, and they would still be interesting. It takes the concept of Cowboy Bebop, where it's set in the far future, where you can travel to other planets that have been terraformed and made habitated by women. Sorry, where people can live on, for simple terms. But there's no aliens, and there's planets that are not owned by the Alliance, and they look a lot more rougher, like they belong in centuries way before, because you can see most of the tech, the equipment, the clothes, even the weapons look like a combination of old and new cobbled together.
Yeah.
And it does have a really cool Western vibe, especially, and I really love that. And while Joss Whedon is very good with the gags, the jokes are a lot more restrained than what you see in Buffy, and there's plenty of very dark, violent moments, especially with the Reavers.
Yeah, the Reavers are cannibals, for anyone who has seen the show.
Yeah, and you never see him. All you know of them in the shot is that one guy was left alive to watch everyone he knew and loved killed and mutilated by the Reavers, to the point where he's so psychologically disturbed by it all, he ends up mutilating his own face, his body, to become Reaver. It's a very dark episode. It really goes into horror territory a little bit here.
I've got it on DVD. I've got the box set, which I'll go and grab in the other room.
It's such a shame that we never really got a second series, but it does lead me on to Serenity, which basically does take what could have been a second series and condenses it into 2 hours, and it does wrap up everything very nicely. We even get to learn more about the Reavers, and we do get to see them this time. And even when you do see them, you barely see them because they probably look so grotesque. It's probably best that we don't.
Just out of curiosity, what year was Firefly?
Around about 2003, 2002, was it?
Right. Okay.
Yeah, okay, Nathan Fillion is really good. He's a very good leading man. He's cool. He's cynical. He's kind of a maverick. He's kind of he's kind of an anti-hero, but at the same time, he does show that he has a conscience once in a while. Unlike
the actor on screen now, that was the man who started filming Aragorn in Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings.
Filming it?
Yeah, he was the original actor. That's Stuart Townsend, who was originally,
Oh, man.
and they filmed for him, but they filmed with him for a few weeks, and they just realised it wasn't working, and I don't think they had a falling out. They just didn't think he was working opposite the Hobbits. He looked too young, and didn't have that kind of kingly feel. I think was the anyway. He got paid an awful lot of money. I think he got almost his full fee because, of course, he'd signed on to do the trilogy for all 3 films, and that's 18 months of work. So he'd been marked as unavailable for 18 months. So they had to pay him still, and they got Vigo instead.
Yeah, probably worked for the best because Vigo did have a more of a screen presence, and he's not a bad actor. He's actually a very good sort of dodgy character kind of guy, you know.
Vigo's a superb actor. Stuart Townsend's a good actor as well, but I can see why perhaps he was slightly miscast as Aragorn, considering the other actors, the ages of the other actors in the Fellowship. Anyway, yeah, this is a good pick.
Yeah, I don't like how the fact that the ships look really rusty, like they could do with a nice coat in the WD-40 all over the place, because it's like, because everything looks cobbled together, and I love it. Nothing looks totally advanced, but at the same time, it doesn't look totally too primitive either.
This guy could be Michael Biehn's brother.
Yeah, this is a very good episode as well, and you get flashbacks as well where you find out how they even met, and the very last flashback is perfect. It's the perfect thing to end on. It's almost like a clip show, except they are recycling clips from other episodes. They're actually bringing new footage that add context to the characters.
Do we have any other fans of this show in the house that have seen all of season 1?
It's been a while, but I have seen all the Fireflies and Serenity. It's been a hot minute. I do love Nathan Fillion as an actor. He does play himself in a lot of the stuff, the whole cynical aspects.
Yeah, it's kind of like Bruce Campbell in a way. You know, he's just kind of good in everything. He can be a total arsehole, and you'll still love him.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just went a bit quiet then. Screen pause then.
The world loves Nathan Fillion.
Yeah, I also like Adam Baldwin in this as well, and he is kind of a bit of a bad guy. He just happens to be there just for the money. He's out for himself. There's even a couple of times he almost betrays Mal for his own greed, and we do get a good episode called Janestown, which does actually flesh him out and add some layers to his without compromising his character. Yeah, and it's a very funny show. It's really funny. It can be very violent, but it manages to balance the dark, the humour, as well as the much more brutal moments.
Yeah.
See, I think television is where Joss Whedon belongs. As soon as he makes that transition to film, I just don't like what he does. I don't like what he does.
Because he needs to have he needs television to expand on his characters.
Yeah.
Well, I
do like Serenity though. I do like Serenity. I think
the box set here, complete with booklet that came in it. Physical media. This was a mere $4.99 in a charity shop. And I got the original sleeve as well. So it's got special edition, all 14 episodes, audio commentary on selected episodes, 3 behind-the-scenes featurettes, 4 deleted scenes, gag reel was very funny, audition tapes, and more. So worth picking up if you want the physical copy of it. And that's been in my possession, I think, since it was first released. I got quite lucky getting it cheap. But I got it pretty soon afterwards because I am a fan. Yeah, I give the series overall a solid 8 out of 10. It was up there with Babylon 5 for me as one of the best sort of sci-fi shows of the late 90s, early 2000s.
I'll second that. Babylon 5 is the best. So many people don't get how good and how epic it is.
Gonna do a whole show about that.
You're missing out on it.
The Shadow Wars. So did you watch the animated thing they brought out recently?
Yeah, that's quite good.
I loved it.
I'm actually with Simon Pegg on Babylon 5. Babylon 5's a pile of shit.
You're told.
We'll have to get into that on another stream.
Yeah, we'll have to get into space because that is such a good program. That's so good.
Brilliant.
People saying Lex is the best.
They did some great Babylon 5 movies. Third Space is a one that stands out.
Yeah. I was on the face because he said Hulk the Slayer was rubbish.
When I watched Babylon 5, I used to have it on VHS, and I got 2 VHS tape decks together, and I edited a feature film movie of the entire Shadow War, just with all the Shadow War clips and storylines.
Oh,
sorry, Matt's lost his connection. I don't know what's happened. So.
It's so good when the Centauri just like create that alliance with Morden, and you get to see that first shadow ship appear, and it just beams.
Yeah, that whole storyline is really good writing. It's a very, very effective. Anyway, okay, thanks for the Firefly recommendation. We're going to move on. Oh, Inside Man's got his connection back just in time to give us his choice. What film have you picked for us this week?
Well, I kind of decided to theme it, really. So
is the theme shit Italian movies of the 1970s?
No. The theme was each of the members of the panel. Right, so, and I was going to do a week by week theme dedicated to each member of the panel, but sadly, we don't have little brother Enzo today, so but I'm still going to do Enzo's one. So these are 2 films by Enzo Castellari. One of them is a spaghetti western. The other one that we're talking about is Poliziotteschi. So I'll get into the spaghetti western first, actually.
What's the title?
The spaghetti western is Keoma, Keoma. As I say, directed by Enzo G. Castellari. I think it's 1976, I think. Yeah, Franco Nero. Absolutely amazing. It's Franco Nero plays this character, the titular character. He's returning from the Civil War to a town where he used to live that just, everything's changed. There's been some kind of weird, odd transition between, since he left and has now returned. It's really, really odd, and everything's very dark and dour and very, very downbeat and quite grotty, and in fact, very, 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 very rotten. It's amazing.
I'm hearing the trailer, but the trailer's not moving. Like it's glitched.
Yeah.
So are you saying it's like a western but semi-post-apocalyptic?
There kind of is that element, which is quite actually appropriate considering some of the movies that Enzo Castellari has done. I mean, if you think of, most people, a lot of people will not know who Enzo Castellari is, but you will certainly have heard of his films. I mean, we spoke about one of them a couple of weeks ago, Lance, which is Eagles Over London, which is a cracking little World War II movie. Also, The Inglourious Bastards.
On the career of Quentin Tarantino, for anyone who doesn't know.
The original Inglourious Bastards, that was also directed by Enzo Castellari. You have Bronx Warriors, Warriors of the Wasteland, and many others. He's shark films that he did. He's kind of Jaws. I
think he's still alive, actually, isn't he?
I believe he is. still alive.
Oh, man, I'd love to get him on.
Yeah, I mean, he's just
so good.
An amazing director, and the cinematography in this movie is superb. I mean, it's a very unpleasant looking movie, but it's unpleasant in quite a beautiful way. It's
unpleasant in only that beautiful way that Inside Man could truly.
Yeah, there is a kind of a sort of a rotten ugliness about it, but it really, the way it's been, the art direction in it, it's really quite stunning. Yeah, Franco Nero, he plays, um I don't know, I mean, he plays it brilliantly. It's just wonderful, really, really wonderful. Very violent, very bloody, very dark, and quite a nasty sort of film.
This guy on the left could be the Italian Dennis Hopper.
Yeah.
And this guy in the middle could be the Italian Vincent Cassel.
Yeah.
Olga
it's funny.
Karatos. Beautiful
But
eyes.
it's funny with the spaghetti westerns. I mean, I mean, I know you're jesting when you said about crappy Italian movies, right? And I know
No,
that you don't. I know
love
I know that you don't mean that. I know you don't mean that at all.
I love these films.
Yeah.
So yeah, for
Yeah.
anyone watching,
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the Italian 70s cop spaghetti western and war
Yeah.
film.
Yeah. Lance. No, I mean, Lance is a lover of all genres, so don't take any notice of him when he says things like that. So, but what I was going to say was,
Just like Inside Man was kidding when you said, but there were no good films in the 1980s.
No, I didn't. I said that there are. I said I like some films of the 1980s, but the majority of them are absolute garbage. Anyway,
I think if we go back and rewatch that episode of the Nielsen rating,
yeah, I was very careful. I was very careful how I worded that. I was very, very careful how I worded that.
Okay.
But yeah, so with the spaghetti westerns, it has a real origin, right? So obviously, Italy was living under the yoke of fascism, throughout the Second World War, and when fascism really fell, in 40, when did Mussolini die? Was it early 45? Was it? I think it was sort of quite early 45. Anyway, so when fascism fell, and of course we started to get more of a democratic society after the Second World War, although there were sort of warring parties. There were a number of genre movie that sprung up from that that really kind of illustrated the kind of in an obvious way, the fascism of that they actually lived under. So one of those genre were the peplum movies, or as some would call it, the sword and sandal movies. So the Italian sword and sandal movies, like the Steve Reeves sort of
the
Colossus and Hercules and all that kind of stuff. The other one were the spaghetti western. So they were kind of an anti-western. I mean, these directors, they all knew each other. They all sort of worked together and everything. So, but they wanted to really illustrate what it was like, what it is like, throughout the 60s and 70s in particular. They wanted to talk about fascism and what it's like to live under the yoke of fascism. And if you look at spaghetti westerns, the evolution of spaghetti westerns, there is that kind of metaphor. Certain things are metaphors for certain things. Like a posse might be a metaphor for of fascism. The sheriff and the government might be a metaphor for fascism.
The
But also,
heavy.
also the landowners, and even townsfolk would be metaphorically, fascist. But there was always something there. I mean, you have to look for it, but it really is there. And that's because, obviously, the fascist movement was still pretty big, even after the Second World War. So there is, to this day, there is a town in Italy, and I believe it's the birthplace of Benito Mussolini, where it's almost all fascist, and they actually celebrate Mussolini's birthday. They sell pictures, framed pictures, and little sort of miniature busts and everything of Mussolini. To this day, that town still does that. To this day, I know it's hard to believe. So whenever I hear people banding around the word fascist as some kind of go-to insult, I just think you're an absolute cretin, because you don't know what fascism is. Whereas the Italians, the Spanish, the French, the Belgians, the Dutch, they lived under fascism. They lived under under this kind of oppression.
Yeah.
So I've got no time for those kind of knuckleheads that decided they're going to start bandying that sort of that word about. But back to the spaghetti westerns, they're very, very metaphorical. And this one is really falls into that category. But it's such a lovely film. It's an ugly film, but it's a lovely film. It's kind of like it's like a bulldog. It's got that really, really ugly face, but they're so lovely. You know what I mean? It's like
Right.
that. This is kind of like the cinematic equivalent of a bulldog. Um, that's the only way I can describe it. But it's such a lovely film with a lovely, lovely story, a wonderful story. What's one of the most interesting things about this movie is the soundtrack by the Angelis brothers, Guido and Maurizio De Angelis, who have done almost, if not all, of Enzo Castellari's movies. It's done as songs, so they don't usually do songs. It's usually a scored soundtrack, although there is some scored soundtrack in it. But it's done as songs, which carry the story forward. So it's almost like the songs are actually. It sounds a bit weird, but songs are kind of quite evocative of the emotion and the way everything is driving forward. It might be sort of on the nose a little bit too much for some people, but I really like it. I think it's a really unusual device that's been used there. But yeah,
I don't think I've seen this one, and
mate, it's terrific.
From the still that's up at the present alone,
Mm.
I definitely want to go and see it.
Yeah.
I believe
This is the English version is available on YouTube.
Right. Okay. So I can watch. What is that? The dubbed version, or?
Yeah, that's the English language version. Yeah, is available.
Okay.
There's also an Italian version. I believe there's also a German version, but the English language version is also available on YouTube. Yeah, yeah.
I believe
it really is terrific. Sorry, mate.
I believe that this location, where this shot was taking place, I'm pretty sure that same location was used as a plate shot for the film Kroll.
Oh, really?
When you first see the first castle, in the distance.
Right, okay.
Pretty sure this was this place.
Yeah.
I might be wrong, but I know that they did do second unit filming in Italy for Kroll. They did a load of plate shots and stuff, for when he's climbing up into the mountains and all of that kind of.
I'm not sure whether this was actually done in Almeria in Spain. It could well have been done in Almeria in Spain. I'm not 100% sure though.
So our new guest, Fleshless Films, had to dip out. I think he had a personal emergency. May well have been the toilet. Those Bombay potatoes.
Yeah.
So he had to dip out. So sent his apologies. But hopefully we'll get him back on again.
But honestly, mate, you must watch this movie.
I will.
You absolutely must watch it. It's so amazing. And Franco Nero he's an absolute arse kicker in this movie. Is just brilliant. Just brilliant. I couldn't recommend this highly enough.
Certainly channeling his massive mullet. And you got Woody Strode in the film as well. And I like Woody Strode.
Yeah, Woody Strode, yeah. He's done quite a lot of these. He's done some spaghetti western. He's done some macaroni combat, and some polizioteschi as well. But yeah, it's a great film. It's a really, really, really good film, and I really, genuinely could not recommend it highly enough. It's fantastic.
I've no idea why, but we're now all appearing under the stills as opposed to alongside them. But that's fine with me. I actually think it worked quite well. So great, Kiyomo, a recommendation from the Inside Man. How much out?
This is a 10. It's genuinely, it's that good. It's that good. It really is. It really is just superb.
Beguiled its uncertainty of that rating, but I'll watch it and I'll let you know my views.
It really is amazing, mate. You won't regret it. Genuinely, you won't regret it. The other one, the other Enzo Castellari.
What is the second film you're going to recommend this week?
It's Polizioteschi, movie. So it's a police procedural,
What's the
kind
title?
of. So the title is The Big Racket, starring Fabio Testi, who plays a cop, Nick, and he.
Yeah, Vincent Gardini is in it as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he.
This film.
Yeah, basically what it is. So. No, I'm so sorry if it sounds like I'm kind of teaching people to suck eggs, but there's again with Poliziotteschi. So I just quickly go back and explain about the Poliziotteschi.
Okay, you're on the
So
sand timer. Be brief.
okay, right. So the Poliziotteschi, they were a genre that were much like the spaghetti westerns, were born out of a certain political situation in Italy. So was the Poliziotteschi. So the Poliziotteschi. They came from an era known as the what's it? It's called the Glani di Piombo, which means the years of lead, which is from about 1968 to about 1988.
Right.
And it was a really, really violent, volatile time in Italian politics, and in Italian society at the time. So you had a lot of people were being kidnapped. This is, wealthy people's children were
Yeah.
being kidnapped and murdered. You had a lot of politicians that were being kidnapped and held to ransom. Judges, police officers, senior police officers. But then it started going from more of a slightly political into more gangland. So it became very, very much, organized crime. So it wasn't just, a means to an end in terms of making a political statement. Um, so the organized crime really, really were at the forefront of this, and it was an awful, awful time for the Italian people. Um, so yeah, and it's called the Gilani di Piombo, or the Years of Lead. It's really worth researching, maybe. And like I say, these films really do come out of Italian society proper. They're not just, they aren't just exploitation movies. They are inspired by real events and real social situations. Um,
They
and
were
this film, the big
reflective. They were reflective of the social
of the
nature of
social,
the,
yeah, exactly
yeah,
that.
of the time. And I've
Yeah,
got one of these. I've got the tough ones,
right,
which
okay,
which came in, I think 1976. I think it was made. It was a bit,
yeah,
again, it was, you could perceive it as the Italians ripping off
yeah,
Dirty Harry, but
yeah,
it
yeah,
again, it very much is this gritty
yeah.
real
Yeah,
feeling.
they were, because they wanted to create a series of movies. Excuse me. They wanted to create movies that showed the good guys fighting back, that showed,
Yeah,
it showed the bad guys really, really, really what was going to be in store for them, over the period of these movies. So this one, The Big Racket, is no different. Um, so you have Nick, played by Fabio Testi, who, he's a police officer, and he finds out about this protection racket,
he's
if you
the
like.
actor on the left, isn't he? In
Yeah,
this
yeah,
still,
and
yeah,
he finds out about this protection racket. So this protection racket, going from shop to shop to shop, all these different businesses, and they're, um, this group of hoodlums, I suppose we could call them, male and female.
of which this
Um,
is one of them on the screen, and you can tell due to his twirling moustache and hugely evil eyebrows.
yeah,
Yeah,
and but and they these these are young hoodlums that they actually get to these different shops, and they're actually protection racket, and of course no one can afford to pay the protection. I won't give too much away, but certain events occur where people want to testify against these hoodlums, and of course it ends up rather badly for those people that are due to testify, that are going to testify, that make statements against these hoodlums. And subsequently, Nick Fabio Testi gets sacked, and he gets all of these disgruntled victims together to wreak their sinister revenge on this mass organization. And there's an amazing car stunt in it, a really, really incredible car stunt, just superb. The way it was shot.
All these
but
cool
yeah.
1970s model kits in this toy shop.
Yeah,
That's kind of interesting to see all the rare toys and the boxes and everything from the time, you know. Yeah, I actually, do you know what? I've seen this movie because it was available on video in the 80s, and I remember us renting it. And I remember the scene of the meeting that you just described.
Yeah.
And
again, you know, again, it's really fucking violent. I mean, this is really violent. It's available on YouTube. I mean, it is very violent. There are some very, very unpleasant things happen. There's only one swear word in it, and that is "you bastard," and that's it, right? And for some unknown reason, and I've no idea why, they replaced the word "shit" for the word "diddle" for some reason. So every time someone says, you know, you're full of shit, it's that they actually say, "Hey man, you're full of diddle," and you're gonna land yourself in the diddle. Yeah, it's really weird.
That rings bells. Yeah.
It's really, really weird. You're gonna land yourself in the diddle if you carry on like that. Hey man, I was born in the diddle. What?
But there's a Uzi 9mm in the film.
Yeah.
You know, there you go.
But it's yeah, it's very, very violent.
As we can see.
Only one swear word in it, but there's some very brutal killings in it.
Yeah, I need to see this again, man.
And you genuinely, I mean, it actually got me a little bit hot under the collar. I was actually getting quite worked up watching it, thinking, fuck, I'd kick the living daylights out of these people if I. Yeah, it really got me worked up. So it really, really sort of drew me in. It's terrific.
I've been in that square with that fountain. In fact, I think I've got a photograph of that square.
I think it might be. He shot a lot of his stuff in Genoa for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know whether it's his home city, but I know that he shot an awful lot in Genoa.
This square's in Rome, isn't it? Pretty sure this is in Rome. I might be wrong, but I mean, hey, you know, square schmare. But I remember it at the fountain as well.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of
Piazza
fountains, of course, in Italy. But it does really look like one of the ones I went to. Look at this guy, John Goodman. It's not really, it's Vincent Gardenia, but doing his channeling in a John Goodman. What would you give it out of 10?
This is an easy 8. An easy 8. You know, if you like movie violence, and you like Italian movies, particularly if you like Enzo Castellari, who I think he's just terrific. He does slow motion very, very well. But yeah, he's great. Yeah, Enzo
what
Castellari.
We need to do is we need to doctor this photo, put Blue Collar Loser behind the framework there, and then change the sign above to Big Packet.
That's true.
All right.
So those two films were actually dedicated to Enzo, who sadly isn't here today. But and next week I'm going to find and dig out 2 more movies, and I'm going to dedicate them to one of you 3. So watch out.
Fantastic. I've got a super chat. Thank you very much, Lord Toxic, for your $10. Cheers, guys.
Hey.
Great. Lance, profuse apologies. Had to work. NEB. Thanks for the help on Buffy. Highly recommend The Veteran, British Paratrooper, an amazing gunfight finale. Yeah, that's with Toby Kebbell. I know the film you're talking about. It does have a great finale. Maybe we'll talk about that at some point. Northern, you wanted to talk about a Nicolas Cage movie, I believe.
Yeah, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. It stars Nicolas Cage as Nicolas Cage. His career's on the bloody decline. He's lost his connection to his daughter. His relationship with his daughter is not going very well. Very soon he gets offered a job that's not acting, but to hang around with a big millionaire. So even though he's desperate, he decides to do it anyway because hey, he needs the money. Only to get embroiled in some kind of kidnapping case involving drug lords, and that the person that's hired him may be a suspect. And it's mostly worth it just for seeing Nicolas Cage and Pedro Pascal just pissing about with each other and hanging out. And Pedro Pascal's kind of just this very wide-eyed sort of proper fanboy of Nick Cage, and these two have really great chemistry. They are so adorable together. I love watching them just get high on acid and just do crazy stuff. It's such a joy to watch. It's great fun. There's not much more I can say. It's a very fun film, and Nicolas Cage just really embraces the cliche, the fact that he's become a walking meme. You know, he
does. He's a good sport for doing this movie. I love this suit of his. My nan used to have this tin box of shortbread cakes that I swear sat under her sink for like about 20 years. And it had this pattern on the box. And I think they were called Scotty biscuits or something, we used to call them. Never knew that pattern would get transferred to a suit, but Cage rocks it clearly. One of the things I thought was really good about this movie, actually, even though the whole parody setup with Cage and Banderas works, as with him being like his ultimate fan, and he's got all the props from his movies and stuff like that, which is a really good running gag. Neil Patrick Harris is really good as his agent.
Yeah.
He's very funny as like because Pedro Pascal basically sent a script and it's like, geez, we'll throw that in the trash. It's like, yeah, sounds about right.
And then there's some really good. I mean, it looked like it was great fun for the actors because basically they got to go to an exotic location and hang out in really like rich hotels and drink and eat all day, and that's just in the script, you know. But also the lady who plays the cop or the FBI agent who's kind of keeping an eye on Banderas's character, she's really good in this as well, and she actually gets a pretty decent narrative considering she's not actually this actress, one of the leads in the film. So I really liked her as well. So yeah, I really liked it. I thought it was good.
Yeah, and it did have a really good setup for a good payoff as well. Like when he's asking him his favorite films, and Pedro Pascal's like The House of Dr. Caligari, and he also likes Paddington 2. And Nicolas Cage is really surprised, like, why? Then they end up watching it, and he's like crying at the end, and it becomes it starts off as a very funny little one-time gag, but then it ends up becoming a very emotional payoff during the end, which helps him connect to his daughter. And I thought, that is so sweet. That it starts off as something funny, then becomes very emotional and very touching. And it does remember to be very touching. And even though he's basically like playing a fake version of himself, they still don't go out the way to mock him too much as well. They still show there's a human underneath that walking meme, for lack of a better word.
No, it's good. It addresses all of his career highs and lows and his humanity in a really, I don't know, just a really kind of clever way. It's a much cleverer film than I think people give it credit for.
Yeah, it's kind of like how JCVD was more reflective, but this one's a little bit more. Yeah, it's kind of reflective, but it's more fun as well.
Yeah. Okay. Good. What would you give it out of 10?
It's Nicolas Cage. It's Nicolas Cage. I got to give it a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
Okay. Has anyone else seen it that wants to give it a rating?
Yeah.
Well,
Easy 9. Yeah.
Easy 9. Okay.
Easy 9.
Right. Yeah, I'll give it a 9.
The scene when those two did acid together, they thought they were being chased down.
Yeah, he's on the bloody wall and he's like that bad help. It's so serious. It's so good.
Yeah, the whole time he looks over, he's like, "Oh, okay." Like, it looked like he was going to fall from like 30 feet, and he just plops down.
Yeah, it's a fun movie. It really is.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I haven't really got anything else to add about it. other than I do recommend it if you haven't seen it. Definitely gets the thumb
Also,
up.
taking the piss at Nicolas Cage, he's been notorious for his horrible spending habits. Remember, he looks at the bust of him from Face Off. He goes, "It's hideous. I'll give you $25,000 for it."
It comes back into play. Comes back into play when he starts wielding the guns.
Yeah,
That's why he went bankrupt for. The guy was like, just the stuff he was spending your money on. Like, oh my god, Nick, you wonder why he's following chapter 11?
Blue, do you have anything else you want to or you've seen?
It's the kid in me, but I don't care. Lance, a couple hours ago, my kid was like, "Dad, did you see the new trailer for Sonic the Hedgehog Part 3?" And the internet, I mean, at least the comment section, I'm looking so forward to seeing Sonic 3. Keanu Reeves playing Shadow, Jim Carrey is Fat Robotnik. And you know what, man? Sometimes the internet wins. Years ago, when Sonic was first released a trailer, man, they slayed them guys. And what they do? Hey, listen, they told the fans, "We're sorry, we made a mistake. Let's fix Sonic for you." Next, you know, first one, second one blows up the box office. There's a lot of hype for Sonic 3, and I'm looking forward to it. And, you know, a 5-year-old could watch Sonic, a 50-year-old man could watch Sonic. It just, both films are family friendly. You can like say for you and Inside Man could never have played a single game, and they're just feel good, family friendly films. Jim Carrey's hamming it up, and like I'm looking forward to seeing this movie.
Yeah, that film's making my money. They do seem to care about the fans. They do.
Yes.
So you saw the trailer for Sonic the Hedgehog 3. What you went to see something else? I'm guessing.
Oh no! Well, the trailer came out on YouTube. Actually, they weren't showing it for the movie, but it came out about 2 hours ago.
Oh right, okay. Sorry, I don't have my Sonic the Hedgehog trailer alert set up.
Yeah, well, I know it was ready. My kid's like, "Dad," and everyone loves it. So Keanu Reeves sounds good as Shadow. It's just Keanu and Jim Carrey and Idris Elba did a fantastic job of voicing Knuckles. And yeah, I mean, just it's more of the same. It's like, you know, it's part 3, but it's such a great like homage to the games, and it's like if you played the games, all the Easter eggs that Shadow does, and yeah, I think it's gonna do a lot of money.
I haven't seen the first two.
I mean, they're
I
good.
did own the game back in the day.
Yeah, and there's enough Easter eggs to help out gamers, but also for people who never played the games. But Jim Carrey, he is why you're watching the first one. I mean, Sonic is a great character, but Jim Carrey is just having the time. He's just so over the top, but like in a good way. And even for the second one. And he said he would not come back unless they gave him Fat Robotnik. So he's got the bald head and the big fat belly, and he's doing from the video games Fat Robotnik. And I'm like, yes. And Jim Carrey got to be
Fat Robotnik.
Exactly.
This is a term of which I'm unfamiliar.
Well, because Dr. Robotics is big fat guy, you know, with the bald head. But and so Jim Carrey, he actually shaved his head for part 2, and then for part 3, he's got the big prosthetic gut. It's just like. But the trailer, it's so much fun. I love the Sonic franchise, and I'm liking like I know the English said they listen to the fans, and the rewards paid off. Both films did fantastic at the box office. You know, they're not like billion-dollar franchises, but they definitely made money. Part 3, I think Part 3 has got a really good contender, and smart marketing. It's coming out on Christmas, like just great timing, guys. It's like December 23rd or 24th.
Yeah.
Okay, fab. Has anybody else got anything they want to recommend or mention before I jump onto my last couple of picks?
Well,
Bueller,
I was. I'll tell you what I nearly watched, and I'll tell you the reason why I switched off.
I feel like this is still going to be an entertaining story worthy of our time. So please continue.
Well, I nearly watched. I decided to spark up Netflix, and I thought, oh, let's just see if there's an interesting documentary or something there. So I found one called Ancient Apocalypse, and I thought, sounds interesting. Sounds right up my street. So, and then on the preamble, there was Joe Rogan on the preamble, and I thought, oh Christ, no. I'm not saying that I dislike the bloke, but he is without doubt the biggest, next to James Corden, obviously, arse licker. I mean, if you want your arsehole licked as clean as a whistle, Joe Rogan's your man. I've never seen it, and that's what put me off of watching this documentary. And it really was, And I thought, oh God, if Joe Rogan is saying that this guy is absolutely spot on and all of his facts, even though he's not a scientist, archaeologist, or historian, this kind of conspiracy theory is absolutely, he believes in it. And, oh God, no. Because every guest that Joe Rogan has on his podcast, every single guest, bar none, right? So you could have the Reverend Al Sharpton on, and he'd be talking about how wonderful religion is and X, Y, Z, right? And then he would have Richard Dawkins on the next one, and it'd be saying, yeah, I don't believe in all this kind of church and God shit. And you think, hang on a minute, what do you believe in?
Right.
Are you adjusting your belief in accordance to the guest that you actually have on? But he is one massive arse licker. And he was the thing that actually put me off of watching this documentary. Not the fact that the documentary may have actually been of interest anyway, but as soon as I see Joe Rogan endorsing anything, I think, no, I'm out. So,
Right.
yeah, sorry about that.
No, that's fine. Well, let's turn our attention to something else.
From the lake! Take cover! Over here! By the town! Get out there! More over here! On the other side! I'm behind! Down over here! Quick! Over there!
Yeah, generally never a good time to go against aliens with laser swords when all you've got's an axe. I'm talking about 1983 movie Krull, of which I have the soundtrack on vinyl. One of the best soundtracks ever from James Horner.
Yeah, terrific score.
Terrific score, directed by Peter Yates. Was a very expensive film with visual effects by Derek Medding, starring Ken Marshall, Lisette Anthony, Freddie Jones, and Francisca Annis. It was a big flop on its release. Well, I don't want to say huge, but certainly it cost a lot of money, and it took quite a while to recuperate it. But it's found its fans over the years. And although some of the visual effects are a little bit dated, and I used to have that copy of Marvel, I think it's a pretty decent 80s fantasy film. I do like it. I like the world in it. It's not set on Earth. It's set in another world. That's all kind of set up at the beginning. It's a little bit cheesy and a little bit whimsical, but when you look at the limitations that they had, special effects wise, this is predating CGI, of course, and you're talking a lot of plate shots, model work, that kind of thing. The makeup in this film is fantastic. The reason I showed that particular clip is I think that's an excellent sequence when they all rise up out of the water. I really like it. And it's a really pretty simple story about a prince and princess who get separated on the day of their wedding. You've got a very young Liam Neeson in this movie in one of his first speaking roles. Robbie Coltrane's in there as well. So is Alan Armstrong, who's in the background of this shot. Todd Carty, who some people remember was Tucker Jenkins from Grange Hill. This was his
I'll
first...
leave it out, Tucker.
Yeah, this was his first role outside of that. There he is. So, yeah, I mean, it's if you like your fantasy films, it's worth your time. You will find that it's dated in some places worse than others. The animated spider doesn't look that great now, but it is, as Jamalama says, the cheesiness is part of its charm. Yeah. I would agree.
Yeah, sometimes you just need something like that, don't you? Instead of something all dark and moody and serious. It's
yeah.
You got the wonderful David Batley in this, who was a little known British supporting character actor. Some of you might remember him as the teacher in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. I'm talking about the Gene Wilder version, of course, which is the only version that you need to know about. Yeah, he's the teacher in the school going, you only bought two Wonka bars? Well, let's pretend you bought 20. He's that guy. Yeah, he plays Ergo the magician. There's Alan Armstrong, who some people will remember was holding the bridge with Anthony Hopkins in The Bridge Too Far. There's Robbie Coltrane before he did Harry Potter. So, and again, one of Robbie Coltrane's big acting roles. This is Bernard Bresslaw.
Yeah, I was just going to mention Bernie Breslau, actually. Yeah,
who used to go to school with my neighbour's dad. They were in the same class together. Most people will know him as the supporting straight man to Sid James in numerous Carry On films, including like Carry On Camping and.
Yeah, it was very funny. Was it? Oh no, I don't mean like that, you know.
Yeah, sure, talk like that. It was very tall. He was almost 7 feet tall.
Yeah.
You know, great actor.
Yeah, lovely man, very good actor.
So you know, it's not a great film, but it's a good film, and worthy of your time if you like the fantasy genre. We mentioned it earlier, so I thought I would give it a quick.
Do you know what though, mate? I mean, you know, it's you mentioned it's cheesy and it's whimsical, but you know, there's nothing wrong with a bit of cheese and a bit of whimsy, to be honest with you.
No, indeed.
And
I hope
again,
it isn't.
Yeah, I mean, this is this is one of those few 80s films that I actually quite like. Yeah, so
one of the few 200 of your 227 picks of the 80s that you like. This is one of those.
I could give you a stack for every Krull. You know, I can give you a 20 police academies and whatever.
Oh my god, don't get me started on the police academy movies, but no,
it is good. It is good. It's fun. It's you can switch off and watch it. It's nice. It's a nice movie.
It's better than You're the Hunter, which has its own charm. But I do recommend it.
The Slayer's rubbish.
That's from Space, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, as you said was, Dad, you're right. Let's give Krull a try, and we'll discuss it later. Yeah. Because he punched his dad because he said Hawk the Slayer was rubbish. That was so.
I think actually, me and my mate watched this and Hawk the Slayer on the same day, and Hawk the Slayer's got that crazy like electrical score that was not like 1980. Everyone suddenly had an electronic keyboard, and then you've got that crossbow that's got like ammunition clips where the guy like fires like 20 bolts. It's like a machine gun. And then they put the bubble over the elf of the grave, the space bubble, to protect it from beasts. Yeah, it's an interesting film.
But this is a terrific soundtrack. I mean, an absolutely blinding soundtrack.
One of my favorite soundtracks of all time. Great opening theme. Really bombastic sort of fantasy track. There's the spider, which could be a bit better, but and you've got the fire mares. Nice bit of blue screen or green screen as it would have been back then. So let's move on to something else. I've got a couple of other things to mention. So talking of good documentaries, I saw two this week, both of which were very good. So one of them you can find on Channel 5 for free. If you're overseas, I believe this is widely available. And it's called The Girls Who Disappeared, Murder in a Small Town. Now, I hadn't heard of this case before, but the first girl who disappeared in this case, and then her body was found subsequently murdered, and it was a small town in Australia. I mean, when I say small town, I don't mean 5 huts and a sheriff's office. I mean a small town like the size of Rugby in the UK or somewhere like that. But and people were going out clubbing, and this one particular hotel and bar, 3 girls went missing from the same place. I think it was over a period of about a year and a half, and they were all found murdered subsequently, and that started in the 90s, and this case was not solved until 2015. So you can imagine the different teams of policemen that it went through and all of this kind of thing, and there were also mistakes made, of course, and in the end it was an old DNA hit on an earlier case that ultimately led to them catching this guy. There is also a 2-part drama series, which I haven't seen yet, but I plan on watching. But I recommend it. Good, solid documentary series. I give it an 8 out of 10. Give Kroll like a 7.5, maybe 8 out of 10 as well, because I like the score so much. Yeah, so worth watching. The other one I watched, which is available on Netflix, is The Ice Cream Wars, which is a 2-part documentary, true story about rival ice cream firms in Glasgow in the 1980s.
Oh, yes. If I remember rightly, wasn't it Bill Forsyth made a movie about this called Comfort and Joy back in the 80s, the early 80s?
I think that was loosely based on this, yeah.
Yeah.
Led to one family's flat being set on fire and 6 people dying, and then there was again what these 2 documentaries have in common is both of them have massive murder investigations that took 20 plus years to resolve. So this is another one, and I need to watch part 2 again because I fell asleep, and that wasn't because it wasn't any good. It was simply because I was watching it at a stupid o'clock in the morning. You know, I really should have just gone straight to bed. But the first part of it was very interesting. Lots of footage, lots of really interesting people being interviewed. And as a result of this, I'll tell you what, this is a really weird synergy, right? The day after I watched this, there's a Scottish crime writer who is in this documentary, right? I hadn't posted anywhere that I'd watched this. Nothing on my social media or anything like that. And this morning, she had started following me on Twitter. And I'm like, how did that happen? Like, how did this person, like, how did I come to their attention the day after I watched this? That's so odd.
Yeah.
And I wrote to them and said, oh, are you the lady that I saw in the Ice Cream Wars documentary? And I got this response back that felt very AI, the text. I looked at the profile again and I thought, this profile is real. This can't be a fake person. So I sent her some information back. And I actually said, why do I think... and she sent me this big, long response, but it felt very AI. And I was like, why do I think I'm talking to AI here? And it's clear to me that they're actually using an AI program to formulate their responses. Because I can tell, because I've been playing around with AI recently. So, yeah, anyway, I said I'll be happy to interview them on my channel. But their name's Denise Mina, and they've written various Scottish crime books and things of that nature. So that'll be an industry interview coming. I've got a super chat from Ryan Randall, who's had a tough week. Sorry to hear that, mate. Been enjoying your live streams and seen your Spartacus streams, and might give them all a watch, as well as the series again. You should watch them all, because the early episodes of the Spartacus streams are really entertaining for Inside Man's whinging about how he doesn't like the show, and then he changes his tack. So I recommend Vikings. I think you mean, not Vikings, Vikings, Amazon Prime. Yeah, I've seen the first 3 seasons, and my friend Donal Logue is in Vikings playing the king. So I think he's in end of season 2, 3, and I think he dies in season 4. And I've got various friends who are in season 6, I think, when it was all shot in Ireland. Yeah, so, sorry, when the Irish production all moved to the UK and they shot it all in the UK. So, yeah, so those are my other recommendations.
That's a really interesting one, actually, that last one. Yeah, I mean, I was aware of this, way back in the 80s. It was a big thing. You obviously remember, back in the 80s as well. This, when this was a big thing.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, and also, like I say, it was Bill Forsyth, wonderful director. I mean, absolutely fantastic director who directed Gregory's Girl, and
that's a film we should do a tune.
Oh yeah. What was the other one? What was the one that he did before that? It was called That Sinking Feeling.
Right.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. That's also on YouTube. That Sinking Feeling. Watched that recently.
I forget Comfort and Joy
Comfort and Joy. Yeah.
Bill Patterson used to live on the adjacent road to me, and I used to bump into him all the time.
Lovely actor.
Yeah, really nice guy in real life. Really nice guy, and he's got a son who's dabbling a bit with acting as well now, I think.
I mean, one of those stalwart British actors that is whenever he's in anything, it's worth a watch. I don't think, to my recollection, I don't think he's been in anything that I've never enjoyed.
Played a really good scumbag in Off We the Same Pet Series 2 as well, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, he really is a good actor, a good solid actor, and yeah, lovely man. Lovely man. But yeah, I'm actually going to give that another watch. Actually, I'm going to give this documentary series a watch, but I'm definitely going to go back to Comfort and Joy.
That photo is a strangely accurate depiction of my Christmas 3 years ago.
Damn.
Yeah.
I don't know whether to laugh, man. I don't know whether to laugh or feel sad.
You should feel sad.
Yeah, I'm not going to laugh.
My Christmas this year won't be that.
Claire Grogan as well.
Yeah, who was in Gregory's Girl.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah, still gorgeous. Gorgeous woman.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in that sinking feeling, it's all the same, pretty much the same cast that's in Gregory's Girls, because he used this little local acting group, didn't he, in Glasgow?
Yeah, that's right.
There was a small group of actors. John Gordon Sinclair, we played Gregory, I think it was.
Came from that group.
Yeah, but terrific.
My favourite thing about Gregory's Girl is the two guys who are like
let's go to Caracas.
That little short guy and his mate, and they're talking about, we've got to go to Caracas, women there, it's 5 to 1, and
imagine that.
And it's right at the end of the film, and they're standing on the motorway, and he's going, give us a lift to Caracas, and they've been standing there for hours, and no one stopped to give him a lift, and then his mate says, I'm going home, and that's not how you spell Caracas anyway, and that's the only line his mate's got in the film. His mate never speaks up until that, which makes that bit really funny. I really like the little actor as well. He did appear in a couple of other things. I think he's a drama teacher now.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of makes sense, actually. Kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
But that really is, that's a beautiful film. It really is an absolutely beautiful, beautiful film in every sense of the word.
Yeah. Yeah, Comfort and Joy is a film worth seeing for sure. So we'll get back into that. And again, The Girls Who Disappeared, Murder in a Small Town on Channel 5. I highly recommend it. It's a 2-hour crime documentary. I know they're popular. Lou, what you got coming up, mate?
Just finishing my or making the Don't Blink Twice video, and I do want to make a Sonic trailer reaction just because I don't do it that often, but I'm just looking forward to it. And I'm just playing more Black Myth Wukong, and just every day Lance keeps seeing more records being broken. I'm happy. I'm happy that people are enjoying the game, and it's just more stuff from.
Yeah, I've seen you're streaming this new game. What is this new game about?
It's about the fictional story about the Monkey King, and more people are pissed off about it's the 15th century China, and the Monkey King is the Sun King Wukong. It's a big, it's a huge thing over in China for their mythology. And of course, when you look at Chinese mythology, it wouldn't have anything modern because it's Chinese mythology. It's their religion, and that's why I said so many. And I like the fact every day another journalist is just raging about it. And the game is setting, it's breaking every game record you can imagine. And all these people are like, well, how's it breaking records? Because it's a great game, you morons. These guys aren't worried about checking these freaking boxes. It's what was I seen? It was actually World War Joe. He's like, somebody was complaining that the game has no female characters. Someone put a screenshot up showing every female character in the game. And it shows the lack of awareness. There's no women in this game. No, there actually is. It's so stop complaining and the fact that it's selling so well and so many people, it's getting every game award and 10 out of 10, 95%, and but people over in good old America, complaining. The game lacks diversity. Well, apparently it's not affecting the sales, is it?
But it absolutely goes to show that in terms of diversity, no one cares. No one cares.
Exactly, inside man. I mean, of course, we 5 people on Twitter do, but almost like The Crow, the Crow remake. Wow, to bomb at the box office. Maybe because you were too busy trying to insert 2024 DEI check marks versus respecting the source material. This game respects Chinese mythology. That's why it's doing so well for.
Yeah.
Versus like the upcoming Assassin's Creed game, they're gonna have the first black samurai, which according to all records, this guy was never a black samurai. But who cares about history, right?
As long as it's diverse.
Yep, and I wonder why Assassin's Creed is going to be tanking for it, and this game is doing fantastic. So,
I'll just sling on Ghost of Tsushima again, because that was a really good one.
On top being a fun game, but it's actually a very beautiful story, and I'm learning more things about these characters because about these deities, and I'm not sure how accurate it is to me. I don't know my Chinese mythology, but based on the gameplay and the cinematics, it's a very rich storyline, and it's a beautiful looking game. And said there's a reason. I mean, games on visuals alone, people aren't dropping $60-$70 on a pretty looking game. Just like and Drinker played it, I played it. That game a couple months ago, Stellar Blade. How is Stellar Blade breaking all these records? Because it's hot women and gamers have to relate to them. No, gamers want to play hot women.
Yeah.
Very good. Northern, you want to plug anything?
Don't think I have anything coming up this week. I will try to see if I can do The Crow if I can, but at the moment I'm getting a few reviews ready for Halloween at the moment as well. I've got one. I've got Paranorman written down. I've got the clips already downloaded. I just need to put it all together and save it for October and get another few more Halloween type movies done for October too.
Actually, yeah, Inside Man. Let's do a Halloween special stream. We'll talk about it. We got to do that. Warriors of the Wasteland. Well, before we go, welcome to a new section of the Nielsen ratings, which is called the Nielsen Recommends a YouTube channel. In fact, I did that last week. I recommended Space Ice, which is a big channel. Doesn't really need our recommendation, but certainly worthy of the praise. Today, I'm recommending a different channel, which is small, just started out. And the channel is called Dark Vader and has done a fantastic review called Renew the Acolyte, which I highly recommend that you watch for its straight up honest narration about the show. It's got this great logo as well, which I'm sorry, but
I like it.
That logo alone gets you an invite onto my channel, man. So, I did ask him to come on tonight, but I think he got the invite a bit late. But anyway, I don't know how the algorithm works, but he came up on my timeline, and I don't normally get plugged little channels. But when I see a little channel that I like to plug them. So Duck Vader, check it out, and you might want to check out this Renew the Acolyte. Now, I'm going to give you a trigger warning because obviously we have to put those on absolutely everything now. Dry sarcasm is involved in this review, so if you don't understand the meaning of dry sarcasm, you may misinterpret the review. So I'm just going to just warning you about that.
Oh, curious, did you guys see yesterday? It's announced for September 20th, but the new the trailer for the Christopher Reeve documentary. Man, that'll make you cry. I don't care.
I want to watch that.
Oh my god, I'm going. Yeah. I will see that in theaters. I'm looking forward. That pulls at your heartstrings, man.
Well, I mean, I grew up with him, so it's is the trailer for that out now?
It actually came out yesterday. I'm sure you can you can YouTube it.
Oh, you know what? That'd be a good thing to finish on. Let's see if we can get it. Then we can if you guys,
it's gonna be out of theaters for like 2 days. I'm definitely taking my kid to see it.
Yeah, I think before I go and see it, I'll probably put Eminem's Medicine Ball on repeat before I go and see it. Just to, yeah.
Are you not a Christopher Reeve fan?
Yeah, no, I love him. Actually, I do. I love him, but I do like Eminem's Medicine Ball.
Okay.
Yeah, he used to just
trash him
for no reason.
It's
right.
That's comedy for you, man.
Yeah.
Let's share this. I'll put it at the end. So, guys, we're going to wrap up straight after this. So we'll get the panel's reaction, of course. But I may have to cut this off later, of course, because we may get copyright flagged. But hey, we're at the end of the show, so we'll put it at the end, and I'll trim it out later. So let's have a reaction to this and see what it's like.
I'll be telling you guys. I'm making a video when that comes out. About 3 weeks comes out.
Yeah,
Wow.
He still is and always will be Superman.
I related to one of the lines in that.
You know, I love too. It's, you guys always know, being a dad, my kids watching Smallville, and when Smallville was on the air, Christopher Reeve had his he was in a few episodes of Smallville, and just seeing him talk to Tom Welling, you know, Clark Kent, but obviously he's in a wheelchair, but just seeing Christopher Reeve being Smallville was, God, it was such a good payoff, man.
He was, man. It's a very emotional. It's a very. Anytime he was on there, it was very emotional.
Yeah.
Well, you heard it here first on the Nielsen ratings. We're all looking forward to seeing that. Oh, I don't know if looking forward is the right word, but I definitely want to see it. And that's it from us. We'll be back at the same time next week. Also on Sunday, we have the Spartacus
Finale.
Final stream about the last 3 episodes of Spartacus season 1. And then not long after that, we're going to be doing The Shield every Sunday, the cop show, the legendary cop show from the early 2000s, one of the best cop shows ever. You can see all the seasons on the shelf just there. Look. So I've also got a couple more interviews coming up. Of course, the most prominent of which is the Gail Ann Hurd interview in September. I am trying to get a hold of 3 people who were all in a very old film at the moment, who I know are still around. I don't want to say what until I get a yes from them. But if I can get them on as a group, it could be a really interesting and fun stream. I've just started writing to them all today. So we will see what happens. Until then, remember, keep the people close to you that you really love and care about. And don't forget to tell them how you feel. Ring up those that you haven't heard from in a while. Check on them. Make sure they're okay. Until then, we'll speak to you again soon.
Bye-bye.